Yeah, it's just confirmation.
Yeah, in such a crazy way. But
y'all took up a donations to get me and my wife to move to Houston, bro, because I want to be a part of all.
Come on, man.
Come on, bro. I'm donating right now.
Come on, bro. You don't got no real job, no way, bro. Like your job, really don't, bro. Look, this is why I be so salty. Dude makes more money than everybody on the call, but don't work.
I'm blessed. I won't lie about that.
Big salty. Yo, when we say your gift will make room for you, I don't know.
Hey, and I will make room.
Come on now. You. Second of a throne.
To do whatever.
He does whatever he wants to.
Talk about it. And just wait till Thursday. Lord, me hit you on Thursday.
Come on. Come on. Just really quickly, if you had to say like top 5 relevant pastors right now, who you got?
John Mark.
John Mark Comer, McMillan?
Yeah, John Mark Comer.
Gotcha.
Mike Todd.
Okay. Mike Todd, John Mark Comer. Who else we got?
Verdict.
Okay.
Verdict.
So this is like all-star break, like all-star pastors, like relevant.
Rich Wilkerson.
Okay. I like it. Who else we got? Need one more. Mike Todd, John Mark, Rich. Who else did we say?
Verdict.
Homeboy out of Dallas.
JP? Not JP.
No,
that's
JP's.
Robert
JP's. Yeah, Madu.
Who you said?
Robert Madu. That's the Chili's pastor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, that guy did a whole like remake of Toby's song.
Yeah, he did. That was fun. Y'all sleeping on Judah Smith, bro.
Shoot.
Judah
I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Y'all big sleeping on the boy.
Pastor, bro.
I did.
That dude belongs to me. Like
I
didn't want to put him out there for everybody.
Judah?
That's all I listen.
Yeah, bro.
I will say relevancy with John Mark. I plug in Judas over John.
Well, so I think what I like about John Mark is out of everybody we named, he's the most furthest from that stream, right? All those other guys are kind of in the same bag a little bit, like different giftings for sure, but they run in the same lane.
John Mark is answering a lot of questions.
Man, I feel like there's a difference between like passionate preachers and yeah, for sure. But I even like intellectual preachers, like I think that whenever he preaches, it's so spot on for not just like a person, but really about the culture.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's not the most like trendy guy. He's not. He ain't on trendy topics, but he's mad cultural. Like he's mad relevant, bro. Like I put him in there. I think I would kick somebody else out before I put him out. But I do think Judah goes top 5 conversations as far as relevant right now.
My guy, bro. I'll call him and tell him we own him, bro.
Judah's move, man.
Pastor Justin Bieber. He's number
Pastor Justin Bieber.
Hey man, I
Reverend
put Kanye there. Reverend Ye, bro.
If our goal is to be relevant to the culture, right? That's being a part of it, how it lives and how it moves, and having a say. What's our idea of relevance?
Off the top, I think a lot of people get relevance and popularity mixed up. I think we think that to be relevant, we need to have either a big following or we need to be in a space where there is a spotlight. But I think for me, relevance is knowing what to do at the right time, knowing how to respond to things. Because if you do something out of poor taste, like let's say like there's a social issue and you say something wrong, you say something that's not tactful, like that's not relevant. Like you might have spotlight, but it's not relevant because you're not doing what culture is seeking for.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for like answering the question that people are actually asking. Like, I think a lot of times we want to, make our point or, what I'm saying, convey a truth that is really, that is a truth. It's pertinent to us. But if nobody's asking that question, then it's like it's truth for truth's sake, as opposed to like meeting somebody with where they actually are. So I think relevance is just whenever your subject matter, your content, your heart is actually answering the question that people are asking, that to me kind of that feels like relevance.
Mm-hmm. I think relevance to me is just being aware of what's going on at the moment, even if you don't agree with something. What people are talking about, how they're expressing themselves, what's impacting them. And we find that through social media. And that's where we get kind of like our news and what people care about. So it's kind of being aware of what's going on at the moment, I guess.
What's tricky about that though is like your feed from social media is so subjective. Like what they're showing you is like what's relevant to you. So that's like the caveat, right? Like it's like, yeah, social media can show you some relevant stuff, but really it's the whole thing is meant to show you what's relevant to self, like self-relevant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was literally my follow-up, because I think relevance is, I like the word awareness. It's doing your part, because if you are wanting to be a leader or to put out content for a certain group of people or a society or a system or whatever it might be, whatever you're producing content for, your part of your job is to listen well and is to be aware of what they need, right? So I mean, there's a relevancy part to that, but at what point does it break down in the context of a singular person versus the community? If you're one person, how can you expect to be relevant to a crowd? And how do you get there? And at what point do you separate objective versus subjective? And I don't want to get too philosophical, because there's no, I mean, we can if we need to, but
it's irrelevant.
I think that question, like say it again.
Irrelevant.
I think it's fair to ask that question, because I think people think they're relevant, but you have another person that looks at it and is like, what is that? Why? Right. So at what point does relevancy break down because it's so subjective that it's not relevant, even though the person might be thinking they're relevant?
Right.
And how maybe do you set systems up in place to actually be relevant when even you think you're not, but yet you are objectively?
Woo. Yeah. And okay, here's two parts. All right. So how important should relevance be? And let's go ahead and jump on, was Jesus relevant to his day? And is he still relevant now? Of course, we would say yes, but let's flesh that out a little bit.
So I feel like the churchy answer is like that it shouldn't matter like if you're relevant or not. Like we should just preach, Jesus. We should just be about the gospel. But I think the gospel is relevant. So it's I think there's a cultural kind of reservation that the church often has about stepping into certain relevant topics or trends or riding certain waves, and I think there's some validity to that. But at the same time, like the gospel itself is like good news, and Jesus says specifically, like Isaiah prophesied this, right? It's good news to a certain group of people. Like it's relevant news to a relevant group. You know what I'm saying? Like it's good news to the poor. And so if you're not poor, the good news may seem irrelevant to you. Like if you benefit from the destructive systems of the day, the gospel is not that good of a news to you. Like what is the point in salvation if my whole life is, perfect? And what Jesus came to kind of show us is like, that thing you're calling perfect is a facade. There's a corroding of the soul, and really there's an offense to God that he's come to like mediate between. So yeah, he's relevant, but I think to so many, he didn't fit their agenda. Therefore, he was irrelevant to their kind of worldview. You know what I'm saying?
Look at the fastest growing church in the world right now. It's in Iran, and they're one of the most persecuted churches in the world. And so, is that relevant? I wouldn't say so.
It ain't popular.
It ain't popular, but is it? So
it's answering a question that community is searching for.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like to a people who are like, this is like Romans, right? Like we're not ashamed of the gospel. Why? Like it's the salvation of men. Like it's the message that's saving men. Which Paul would say it's foolishness to those who don't care. Like for them, it's an irrelevant word. But for those who like have bought into Jesus being like king, like it's the most relevant thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus is mad relevant to his people, and really he's relevant to everybody. They just don't know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love how the Bible Project kind of like does their videos. They're like, we're talking about like, how to read the Bible and what the Bible's about, and showing how it has wisdom that's relevant for today. And they're not saying that it's like a how to be successful, guidebook. It's not a book on repeat these mantras over yourself and you'll be good. It's not a book that even says here's a self-help book. Like you read these things and you'll be good. But it's saying there's relevant wisdom for how you follow Jesus in today. And that, like following Jesus, that's, I would say, is always relevant, no matter what generation or what culture you're in.
I think like for creatives and this like battle with relevancy, it's kind of like what you're talking about Jesus. Like Jesus only was relevant to the people that could relate to. And so like for creatives, you're only like to think of it as I need to be relevant to who I'm called to. And not to like you got to define who you're called to first.
Come on.
Before you can even worry about relevancy, because then you're just trying to chase the world. If you're just trying to pop out in the world and do something.
So identity.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, even like so think about like how like most social media platforms are set up right now. If you just like start posting things and hope to like hit everybody, you're gonna hit nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were to like start a brand and you're trying to reach everyone, but you're not trying to reach someone, you're gonna miss. You know what I'm saying? Like the way the algorithm is set up, and really the way that we kind of do marketing, at least in the US, is like niche markets are the most popping thing. Like when you said I'm after this specific thing, that's what we're talking about. Like what are we trying to do with Urban, right? Like when we name who we're after, it's like I'm not trying to be relevant to everybody, but these specific, like if you're a Christian creative, like we believe that God has, put something inside of you when it wants that fan in the flame. You know what I'm saying? Like once you name that, then it's like, okay, this is who you can go after. We ain't gotta be popping to everybody. And we put an age on it, like 18 and 35. But like if you're a 72-year-old Christian creative, like you popping on TikTok and you 85, cool. Like we'll rock with you. You fool with Jesus? You're trying to be a creative, awesome. But like that naming who your market is, like naming what your niche is, it's like I'm specifically saying this is my flock and I'm gonna be a shepherd to them.
Like if Jesus was here today, we may have to introduce him to the concept of what we call church, right?
Man,
if you look at scripture, Jesus, he was at the synagogues for sure, but he was living life with people. He's going
absolutely.
To wells. He's going for a specific purpose to bring some life to you. Right?
But I don't think that's the only reason he was doing that, bro. Like I think we often like look at Jesus' ministry as like we separate what he came to do in the physical as if that was something different than what he did at post resurrection. You know what I'm saying? But like Hebrews talks about, right? Like we have a high priest that's not unaffiliated with or doesn't understand, what we've been through. So like, yeah, he came in our context on the front end to like break bread with us and really give us the gospel. But also on the back end, it's because it's because he gets it. It's because he knows that he can intercede on our behalf. Like, which to tell the church, you can't intercede for nobody that you don't relate to. Like you don't know how to pray for, you don't know how to minister to, you don't know how to serve a people that you're hands off of. Like Jesus is his earthly ministry coincides with his heavenly ministry, which is the same for us. Like whatever we're doing in our walls, if it's not applicable to outside of our walls, I think we're doing something weird. You know what I'm saying? If what's happening in our walls is neighboring and we think what happens outside of the walls is proselytizing, we've separated a ministry that Jesus never separated. Like his neighboring was his witness. You know what I'm saying? Like so me being relevant or really me being relatable, that's my ministry. Like all the rapping and poetry and preaching, that's like that coincides with like if I'm not neighboring well, if I'm not relating well, I'm not ministering. I'm putting on a show. Like
But it, like even for creatives, like specifically too, as an encouragement and challenge, it's like if you get frustrated of like why aren't people receiving my talent? Like I'm like a dope artist, or like I paint this so well, I've worked my craft. Like you have to spend time with the people. Like even me for like ministry, sometimes
Come
it's like,
on, bro.
Why aren't kids coming to like this dope thing where I bought like I spent $2,000 on a bouncy house or something?
Hey,
And it's
come
like
on.
it's
$2,000.
because I'm not spending time with the people who are
Come on,
actually
bro.
asking for something different.
Bro.
Dude,
And
that bouncy house better have a restroom. It's $2,000.
Big facts. Big facts. That's facts though, bro. Like we doing all this like events and program stuff. Like if you're not actually doing life with people, then you're performing at best. You know what I'm saying? You're not ministering. Like you actually have to like, yeah. It's weird to go into ministry and not like people. Like that's a weird thing. Like, you probably should like people. It's weird to be a creative. Like I think a lot of creatives just want their craft to be seen. But like that's the superficial thing. Like you want that. That even when your craft is seen, that doesn't scratch your itch. Theologically, where we all kind of camp out as followers of Jesus, we believe that we all want to be fully known and fully loved. So you don't just want people to appreciate your gift. You want people to know you. You're expressing something. You want to be known, and you want to know that when you're known, you're expressing yourself in the craft that you spent time on. You're putting your best foot forward because once you express a part of you, you want it to be loved on. Sure. The reality is like that's what Jesus gives. Like you don't gotta perform for him. Like as a creative, you're just known and loved. But then as a creative, what you then carry should be my craft isn't to get people to have attention to me. It should be how do I help somebody be known? How do I help somebody feel loved? You know, like how do I then relate to them through my craft? That way they're not just drawn to like, you know, affirm myself or like scratch my ego, but they're drawn to a bigger story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's like our in-house artist, Ellie. I think she does that perfectly.
I think she does. Free really tattoos. Well. Come on.
Freedom. What a freedom. See what I'm saying?
Hey.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got y'all.
So I think we pretty much established the importance of being relevant, but how far is too far? Mm-hmm. How far? Like what is off limits? Like what I guess for lack of a better term, like what avenues shouldn't you go into for influence, to impact the culture? Like what would you call out of bounds, right? For a creative, like, you know, I should stay away from these lanes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the age-old question with anything in relationships, more specifically as well, of like how far is too far is always the question that we ask. And I think when you start asking that question, I think you're already too far. Because if you're asking that question, don't you think there's some type of conviction in your heart already if that question has come up? Not saying that it's bad that that's come up, and not saying you've gone too far already. I'm just saying if you're asking that question and push back on it, because it could be more on the conservative side on my view of that. But I think once you've expressed that question for a certain thing, hey, I'm doing fill in the blank. Is this too far? Mm-hmm. Under the circumstance, obviously it's different for everyone. So it's hard to define us like five in here, right? To say, okay, here's a 5-point process of what you shouldn't do. And then within those processes, this is what you specifically can't do within those. Yeah. And that's just creating laws, right? Yeah. And so I think for me, the quick answer is like, once you're asking that, and maybe even just asking that over and over again, almost to the point of struggling with it, why not just back off? Mm-hmm. So that's what I think.
That's valid, bro. That's valid.
And I want to promote my context. I've never been in a situation, because here's the thing. I mean, in the reality of the weight of that, right? Like, let's say you really feel a call to put on a conference, or you feel a call to go to this art exhibit thing that promotes something that is not biblical or whatever it might be. But this could really promote your brand in a way that's never done it before. But they're also the cause of it is for something that is unbiblical. I don't know, just a random example. But this could be something that you feel like the Lord has called you to, and He could support that in a way. Like I've never been under the situation of a situation that is weighty, that is like, okay, you don't know the context of what I'm going through, because this might just be my breakthrough to get me to where I need to go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've never been in that situation, so it's easier for me to say. So that's why I would love some pushback on
But
that.
your heart is never, like, I've never seen your heart be dismissive. Even now, like you've always been like open to, like, man, I know I may not get it all, but like you're open to like have those ongoing conversations. So I never hear you being dismissive of anybody's like experience. That being said, I do think that like there's something to be said for like asking the question, like, how far is too far. I agree that when that becomes a question, maybe your heart is kind of like fumbling upon some stuff that maybe you rather should be fumbling upon. But think about it from this perspective, right? When like the early church is like full of the Holy Spirit, like they many folks who've been walking with Jesus, and even they had to ask the question, like, what does it mean? Like now that like the God, like, so for them the most relevant like thing was like, oh, the gospel, like the most radical thing was that the gospel is relevant to Gentiles. Like, so then they have to ask the question, well, what does that mean for us, right? And so like there then becomes this whole exploration, like post Acts 10, and you have like the rest of the story where it's like, flesh out for me what this means that the Gentiles are like hearing the gospel and the Holy Spirit is falling on them. So I do think that that our hearts should first and foremost be postured towards Jesus, and not like the guide, like the guardrails. My homie Carolyn Moore, she was like, if you're asking how far can you go, you're asking the wrong question. You should ask how close can I get, not to the rail, but how close can I get to Jesus and the people. Yeah. Like so I'm definitely for that language, but I do think there's some wisdom in discerning, like, all right, the gospel and the Holy Spirit are in the kingdom, Jesus said, is advancing. So we should often be reflecting on what does that mean in our context. I think we've kind of assumed we've cornered the market on understanding God's plan. I mean, I think we don't. I think I think that like there's some validity to asking questions about, like, yo, what does it mean that the gospel is made relevant to this space? It should surprise us on a daily basis how far the gospel reaches. Yeah. And that should shake up our comfort about it. You know what I'm saying? I think I could be wrong. I'm open to pushback too.
No, I mean, because for me, because Jesus is going, bro. He's going. See, Jesus is going to, because I like to bring it back to personally. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how far did Jesus have to come to get you? You know what I'm saying? How, and when you think about it, I'm nothing special, right? You know what I'm saying? For him to come down my avenue and knock on my door, you know what I'm saying, and know everything about me, like, so and when you look at Jesus going to the well, right? Jesus at the well with the woman who had the many husbands and all that type of stuff. Yeah, he had to go there, and like his people was like, "Why are you talking to her? Like, what is this?" You know what I'm saying? So it's like Jesus is going to places and
that we're not comfortable with.
Exactly. And if he's going, why aren't you going? Like, ask yourself that, and not now. And it hits back into what Jacob said earlier, what wisdom is, right? So you have to be closely in tune with what the Spirit is doing, and if He is leading you there, then by all means go. But He may have some pushback lest you fall, right? Unless you become part of the wave and you're not influencing it, rather it influences you. So
yeah. Ellie, when you first decided to do tattoos, was it ever like a weird vibe at all, as far as like, not necessarily from like your church or your family, but like this, when you first walked into like a tattoo shop, were you like, oh snap, it's like this, or was it kind of like love from the jump?
No, I was actually that was one of the reasons why I kind of battled with considering tattooing, just because I didn't really see myself in that industry. Because for the most part, you think about tattoos as a tattoo shop as gory, and you hear a
Skulls
lot
all
of
over the place.
yeah, that too, like the dark side of tattooing, but just the conversations that go on at tattoo shops aren't always the holiest. So yeah, I did have
Same at the barbershop.
yeah, and I've thought about that too. I'm like, this is probably what you hear in locker rooms in any other industry, you know. So but I did have a battle with that, and even though my tattoo shop isn't like other tattoo shops, it's pretty dope for the most part, but the conversations I hear aren't the most appropriate. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like for me, I know like the Holy Spirit, He convicts me, where to as to other people, like they might not think that what they're talking about is bad. But for me, I'm just like, let me plug in my earphones and listen to worship music. But but yeah, I mean there is days that, you know, they're talking a little bit louder, they're going off, they're being sillier than they are other days. So yeah, sometimes the vibe is weird.
Yeah.
And then like I told Jacob whenever, I mean J Law, whenever he went to get tattooed, I was like, dude, I apologize for whatever they say. I'm so sorry. I have a lot of church friends that want to go get tattooed there, and I'm like, I don't know if I should bring them here.
Oh
But yeah.
Hey, it was chill.
No,
That's,
but I
I
love
mean,
having
them.
fun.
They need Jesus, so pray
Come
for
on.
them.
I think it reminds me of this like wrestling that a lot of people have when it comes to like, and this is probably a completely different topic, but like secular stuff and church stuff, and like some creatives want to only do this space of like in the church, like I only want to create in the church, and then some are like I want to create outside of the church, and then some you're either like, oh, you're too secular for church or you're too churchy for secular and all these things. But at the end of the day, when we talk about the gospel, how we talk about the gospel is relevant, and the gospel spreads to the ends of the earth, and that's what the whole goal is. Like
Yeah.
that's everywhere. So like
Mhm.
we need creatives who
Everywhere.
create in church. We need creatives who go all the way to where it's so dark that
Yeah.
it gets hard to, you know, you don't know if you're in the right place or not. Like we
Oh
need it
yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah.
what, as
And
long
where
as you know who you're going to.
mhm. Where I did feel a more like spiritual like impact, I guess, was when I was going to the tattoo convention here in Houston. I went to a tattoo convention with the shop right before I got hired. And right before I entered, like I pray, I covered myself, and I was like, Holy Spirit, greater is you that is in me than he who is in the world. And I think that's what we're called to do, is just to be a light in those dark places. Because I don't know what was moving, you know, in that event, and I didn't know the people that I was gonna meet, because it wasn't just the people that I knew directly. It was all these other shops that they have schools. They like their shops are based off of witchcraft. Like you can automatically like discern, you know. So I that was one of like the places where I did feel like a really weird vibe, but I covered myself, and I think we have to have that attitude, because if not, who are the people that are going to reach those people? Who are the people that are going to reach those industries? You know, you never hear about a church going into a tattoo shop and spreading the gospel. And so that's where we're called to be a light, and people
Absolutely.
will definitely see that.
Absolutely.
I think creatives have the perfect opportunity to be not even Christians in disguise, but to promote something that they've been called to in a way that is relevant, and that non-believers look at and they're like, I can't help but to recognize the craft in this person. And isn't that ultimately what we go for? Like Jesus
Yeah.
doesn't call us to be subpar creatives.
Come
He
on.
calls us,
Come
if we're
on.
called to it, then it's a gifting, then we're we're good at it, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it should be out of an overflow of what we naturally can do. You know,
Yeah.
if you're really striving, right, to borrow that language, if you're striving to create in some areas, now there's creative block, right? There's you go through seasons of, you know, writer's block, creative block, whatever it might be. But if you, I would like to encourage, if you're striving and striving and striving to do something that is not come easy to you, pray about something else. That's okay. But I think as creatives, we are called to be great at something.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like, it doesn't have to be the best according to the world, but we're great at our craft. And those that are non-believers look at it and it's like, I can't help but to recognize the beauty
Yeah, and that
individually.
bro.
Go ahead.
gives you credibility too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think giftedness, like this is scripture, right? Like your gift makes room for you, right? You being gifted gets you invited to a lot of rooms. But if you don't have a heart for people and you don't have that heart to like really, we keep using the word relevant, which I think it's a relevant term, but like really it's the heart to relate to people. Like having a gift will get you invited to the room, but really having a heart for people, that helps you read the room and like serve the room well. You know what I mean?
Come on.
Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of creatives that think about where they want to go. You know what I mean? Like what heights can they reach, and what platform can they get on? And I'm not mad at that. I think that we'd be foolish to knock success, but success can't be your driving factor as a follower of Jesus. Like for us, there's a heart to love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, creativity, passion, drive. Like I want to love God with all that, and I want to love my neighbor as I love myself. And so my giftedness, like this goes like to our ethos, right? Like I want passion, like I want to pursue what I'm passionate about, but I really want intimacy. That's the itch underneath that whole passionate thing, right? More of it, I want to be expressive, and folks like pat me on the back. I want deep connection with the Father and with the Father's people. I do want I want there to be an element of excellence to what I do and how I serve, but more than I want success, I want to be faithful. Like I want to be really consistent with whatever craft God has given me to, in the language of Jesus, right? Steward that really well. And then I want to, like, own my craft and be talented, but more important than talent, I want to be able to add value to Jesus' people, to folks that don't know him. And that's where creators have that window, right? Like there are people who see that you can add value to whatever they're doing. Like, I want a tattoo, you're good at tattoos. That adds value to my body, right? Or you make a heck of a cup of coffee. Like, you add value to my day. But I show up looking for your craft. You carry something special. You carry something more important than your craft. You're creative. You have a gift. And what folks will look for is your craft. But what you have to give them is the wham wham. Like, you got the shiggity. You got the stuff. Like,
come on, say
you got
The
the
sauce. You got the sauce.
You got
that light shine.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Someone needs to do, like, after this, after we get off of this, someone needs to do, and I could be completely wrong, but someone needs to do like a word study if like relevancy and relationship and those words have like a similar root
So
or something.
I was
Because I
just
feel like it's all
Googling
connected.
that. I know, I was just Googling that because, sometimes it's like a Greek word or something like that. But I feel like relevance is very, like, a synonym to relatable. I don't know.
It's they cousins. They seem like they cousins.
Right?
They cousins.
They're the same family. Yeah.
I wanted to mention this on Monday, but I saw a video of a pastor, and he said that to not seek our potential, but to seek our purpose. Because a lot of times, he gave the example of Jesus. He had the potential to do miracles that we can't even imagine, and to heal people left and right, and to be the richest person and make money come out of the sky. But he didn't really reach his potential while he was here on the earth. He came for his purpose, which was the cross. And so I wanted to say that because I think as Urban, that's what we want, is not to push people to reach their potentials. Like, we want to give them resources and connect them, but it isn't to give them a platform so that they can be the best, artists, but for them to reach their purpose.
Come on, Ellie. So that's that faithfulness over success piece, right? Like I'm it's not a miss on me. Like, you can get on social media right now. You can get on YouTube, go to, like, get a masterclass on like how to be successful, and everybody is selling success. That's like the one thing Jesus doesn't sell. Like I can't find no place where he says, like, I guarantee you success. I guarantee that whatever, like, your craft is going to be popping and everybody's going to love it. He has a lot to say about faithfulness. There's a lot to say about stewarding your gift. And I think, again, if your focus is on your potential, right? That's, I mean, if we're going to go there, look at Matthew 4. Like, the serpent comes to tempt Jesus in the wilderness, and he's like, yo, if you really got it, if you really are who you say you are, then do X, Y, or Z, right? And all of that is like, Jesus has the potential to do all of it, but like, how many times Jesus said it's not my time? How many times Jesus like restrained his potential because he knows what his purpose is.
Mm.
I think that if you're shooting for success as a as a follower of Jesus, I think you're gonna be sorely disappointed in the promises of God. And the promises of God have very little to do with success, but it has all to do with like you are made for significantly more. That doesn't mean you're made for bigger platforms. It means you're made for deeper connection with people and with God. And so for us, like we want to help people be faithful in their craft. And if success comes with that, great. Ty, give it to us in the Patreon. Cool.
Hey.
we not,
Bless Urban.
come on, bless up. We ain't mad at success, but that's not the aim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the aim is like, yo, I'm really trying to abide in that vine because I know this fruit gonna bless people. You know?
Come on.
Yeah. I don't know who that pastor is, Ellie, but he in the vein. I guess that's the boy.
He's great. Yeah.
Come on.
All right, so guys, do we want to end it here or we want to keep on going? Like
that's a fire ending. I'm not
smooth episode, bro.
Hey,
the smooth episode. I think we're good though. I think we're good. I'm excited for the next conversation. We'll keep it going, and
yeah,
y'all keep tuning in.
Yeah.
You have some good hair. Oh, God.